how do you actually stay alive, how do you stay fed in a Minecraft world. The first one, of course, is hunting, where you basically go out every day trying to, well, kill every animal on sight and basically try to get the amount of food that you need for that day. It's time consuming, but you can also go ahead and do that and you'll be able to get the food that you need to, well, cook it and then be able to survive. The only problem with that strategy, especially in a place where you're trying to, or you're planning to stay in a particular space for a long amount of time, is that you will need to probably keep going farther and farther, as the game needs to take some time before it actually respawns those animals in a specific area. When going farther and farther, there's a high chance, especially if you're not experienced, that you might get lost in your Minecraft world. The other aspect which I will actually recommend is farming, and with farming the way to do it is to actually be able to breed animals. Now you're probably asking, how do you actually breed animals? Well, the first thing you need to do is to breed animals is you need wheat. Well, how do you get wheat? Well, to get wheat you need to actually touch grass, or in this case actually punch grass, and by punching grass you need to hold down your left click, which is to basically break blocks or punch blocks, and or basically use your tool, and in this case you'll be punching the grass itself. And the grass specifically, I say grass specifically because by punching grass you'll be able to get seeds, and in getting seeds you'll be able to then need to find a place or some blocks that are right next to water. The thing about farming and, well, planting seeds is that first you actually need to craft a stone hoe, which is 2 sticks and then 2 cobblestone, as you see in the crafting table. And after crafting that and getting the amount of seeds that you want to start off with, you find the water source, and it can either be flowing water or just standing water. What you notice about planting and with tilling the ground is that the blocks have to be at least 4 blocks away from a source of water. So if they're any more than 4 blocks away, you'll see that they don't turn from light brown into dark brown. They actually just stay light brown, meaning that they're not saturated by the water. So you want them to turn into a darkish brown color, signaling to you that the ground is ready and that it will actually grow the crops at a normal rate. After tilling the ground, you then want to use right click to interact with the ground and place the seeds onto the floor, and you get the achievement A Seedy Place, which is when you plant your first crops, whatever it is in Minecraft. So we're just going to go ahead and, well, till the ground here as you see, and as you start to notice, after it is stayed there for a while, the color of the ground changes from light brown to a dark brown, as you notice there. So after you plant your seeds, now we're just going to go ahead and start preparing the place where we want the animals to be. The animals specifically being sheep and cows respectively. Now the thing to know about sheep and cows is that for sheep and cows, they definitely love wheat, and that's why we had to gather seeds to plant, because the seeds will actually grow into wheat that you can use to lure the sheep and the cows and then breed them respectively. For pigs, they actually love potatoes and carrots, if I'm not mistaken, and for chickens, it's actually the seeds before the wheat that they're actually attracted to. And lastly, for rabbits, it will be the carrots and I think dandelions as well. I'm just going to go ahead and, well, craft a fence to use for that, and the crafting recipe is of course using sticks and planks. If you put the 2 sticks on the side and the planks in the middle, you actually end up creating a fence gate. But we actually want to make a fence. We actually want to make fences, not the gates themselves. So you reverse it and put 2 planks on the side and then 2 sticks in the middle, which will create the fence that you need. And I'm actually gonna kind of show like a brief tutorial on a kind of more aesthetic looking farm space or area for the cows and the sheep. So I'll be back when I start to build that after I've made the fences I need. So after clearing the space out, the first thing you want to do is, well, place a log down. It doesn't have to be a jungle, it can be any log down. And then count 3 spaces and place another log down. Count another 3 spaces and then place another log there. I'm just gonna go ahead and, well, break the dirt and the grass behind it so that mobs or any other animal doesn't walk into the space and it gets mixed up. I'm gonna go ahead and place one diagonally there and another one diagonally there, and then place another log after counting 3 spaces. I'm actually gonna break that one and make it just small enough so that it doesn't run into the farmland. Count 3 spaces from there and then place a log. Then make a diagonal one there, then 3 spaces, one there, and then one there. And after doing that, then you want to, well, I'm gonna need to make a crafting table because I didn't bring one with me. After making the crafting table, I'm going to then use the jungle planks I have, and in a 3 formation like that, I will make some slabs that I'll need. And I'll explain a little bit later why I'm using placing slabs on top of the logs themselves. So after placing the slabs, you're going to go ahead and grab your fences that you made, and then fill up the space of 3 in between the logs. And then in the front or wherever you choose the entrance will be, you then break one of the fences so that you can be able to get out. And we're just going to go ahead and make a second one for the sheep. So again, you place your logs, you count 3 spaces, place another one, a diagonal one, the corner, 3 spaces, log, 3 spaces, log, diagonal. I'm just going to clear out this area here so that I can continue to place them. So 3 spaces, log, and then a diagonal one there, 3 spaces, another log, and then you want to put the slabs again on top of the logs themselves. And then when you've done that, just fill out the spaces with the fences that you need, or the fences that you've crafted. Now I'm just going to go ahead and actually make the fence gates using the same recipe that I showed earlier of using 2 sticks on the side and then using jungle planks in the middle. So it's kind of just differentiates the fences. And it looks like the wheat has finally grown, so just gonna go ahead and break that with left click. And a quick tip for survival, if you want to quickly like swap blocks and stuff, if you use your middle mouse, you click with your middle mouse, it will actually, and you're facing the block, it will actually swap to the respective block in your inventory. So as you saw, I was able to quickly swap, but when you're facing wheat, it actually swaps into the seeds rather than the wheat, and that one hasn't grown yet, so we'll just wait for it to grow. But at least now that we have a sheaf of wheat or a bundle of wheat, we're now going to use this wheat to attract the cows and the sheep into the pens respectively. You notice I keep kind of turning back to kind of check to make sure that the cow is following me, because with using wheat to attract animals or using the food to attract the animals, the thing about that is that they can easily lose interest if you are too far away or you move too quickly, which makes you too far away. So I'm just constantly checking back, making sure, as you see, the cow lost interest there. So I have to wait for him to gain interest again, and then walk into the pen and wait there for it to enter in, and then I quickly switch to something different so he completely loses interest. And now I just need to find another cow and fill up the place, so I'll be back when it's time for the sheep. Alright, so I'm just going to go ahead and I can see 2 sheep, so I'm just going to actually go ahead and attract both of them, not just one. And in Minecraft there's actually no level or amounts of animals you can attract with one food. The only problem is that when you attract too many, it's very likely that one of them will lose interest because you're either too far or they just aren't close enough to have that interest in the food. But if it's a case of just 2 animals or maybe like 3 or 4, you can easily be able to attract the whole number of them and keep them well attracted to the food and lead them to where you want them to go. Now that the sheep are actually in the pen, I'm actually going to show you something very interesting that is specific to only sheep with their wool. So if you turn flowers into dye and then you use your right click, as you see I can turn this flower into a dye in my crafting table, in my crafting inventory. If you turn it into dye and right click on the sheep with that dye, you actually dye your wool the specific color. I'm just going to show again, if I use that dye and use it on the same sheep, it actually changes the color entirely. If I use yellow on the white sheep, it will turn it yellow. Now I'll show you something interesting that happens with dye, specifically if you're trying to, create different colors without having to actually get the flower themselves. Before I do that, I'll just quickly explain the thing about the slabs. So with blocks, the player is only able to slightly jump over one block, and with fences they actually, I think, 1.5 or just a little bit taller than one block, so players or animals can't jump over it. But when it's just one block, it's easy to jump over that. So when you put slabs actually on top of a block, you as a player can't jump over it, but the animals themselves too can't jump over those as well. But there's only one kind of, mob that will be able to actually get over it, but I'll get into that later when we cover combat in a much later episode. So now I'm just going to go ahead and then find some dye, specifically red and blue, so I'll be able to show you and explain what I mean with sheep and dye. So I found some blue dye and found some red dye, blue and red flowers. So if I turn them into dye, as you see in my crafting inventory, if I open my inventory, holding or pressing E and try to combine them, they'll actually create purple dye. But I won't make purple dye yet, I'll actually leave them as red and blue. But if I were to dye, let's say, that sheep red, and it's almost night, so I'll come back and show this in the morning. So since I've dyed them both red and blue, if I were to enter the pen and then switch to wheat and actually feed them the wheat, they will actually produce an offspring that is not blue or red, but the respective color or the dye. And you see we got the achievement, the parrots and the bats, for breeding our first animals. And you see that for the sheep, the actual offspring is the color combination or the dye combination of the parents, and that's usually what happens with the sheep. Now obviously I'll also need to breed the cows to be able to start creating this farm that I'm starting. But basically that is pretty much it for this episode, and I do really hope you enjoy it, and I hope you found it useful and as well as entertaining. But my name has been Durigala, and I will be seeing you in the very next episode, where we'll be covering, the material or resource you need to upgrade your tools, as well as to get armor in the game and actually start to explore the world a bit more, as maybe even go caving as well, but we'll see. With that being said, see you then.